All right. How are you, Ayanna?
I'm good. Hey, Pia. And hey, Deja, we got another guest.
Hi, how are you guys?
Another guest today.
Welcome. Welcome to What Makes Us Human podcast, Deja. We're so happy to have you back and here. We're so happy to be back and have you here. That's what I meant.
Yes.
Welcome. We asked all of our guests what makes you human. So that's what we're gonna get right into.
All
Welcome.
right. What makes me human? I would say my ability to connect, to feel, to express, and just, find that range to identify and relate to people.
Beautiful.
All right. Yes, yes, that's great. So, Deja, you are a therapist.
Yes,
You are a PhD candidate.
I am. Well, actually, PsyD, but in the same ballpark.
Period.
PsyD candidate. Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So I have worn many hats in mental health. I first, started my foundation as a substance abuse counselor, which I still am an active KSAC, but I transitioned after a few years in, methadone maintenance and opioid treatment. And I decided to get my master's and become a licensed social worker, and that has allowed me the opportunity to practice as a psychotherapist, and it's been awesome. But in some ways I feel a bit limited in the amount of impact I'm able to give to clients. And so I started my PsyD journey in the middle of the pandemic. I got laid off, and I was just like, I was a 2020 graduate for my master's with social work, and I felt this call that I just wasn't done learning yet. And so I made a spur of the moment decision. I applied to one PsyD program, and I was like, if I get it, I get it. If I miss it, I miss it. And I was accepted, and I started in 2021, and I will be studying to become a licensed psychologist once I complete my doctorate. So that's kind of where I am now, where I'm doing both, school full time and working full time, and part time with transformation, which has been a great privilege. But it's been good. It's been going good.
Great.
Nice. And what is your driving force behind the work that you do? And I heard you say you feel like you weren't in the capacity to serve in the way that you want to. So what was your driving
Yeah.
force behind connecting with people?
You know what I found with mental health is that there are so many different tools, right? There are so many different ladders you can climb, and at certain levels of your education, you get told refer, right? And I was finding that that was becoming more of the go-to, and I kept saying, why can't I be in a position to accurately diagnose a potential client or a patient to say, yes, you absolutely do, based on this test, fall into an autism spectrum, and here are the recommendations. I wanted to be a part of the diagnosing process in a clearer way, because historically, I do serve minority populations, especially working with Black and Brown people. And I just felt like historically the diagnosing for that community has been very biased. And, there's only 3% Black psychologists,
Exactly.
Wow.
period,
Mm,
in the United States.
I
And
didn't even know that
that,
statistic.
yeah, that statistic was, I think, back in 2020. So I'm not sure where it falls now, but I wanted to be a part of, this really big deal of like classifying someone, and this label will carry with them for the rest of their lives. And I think that the inaccuracies just have been kind of unfair, and I just want to be a part of the solution to this problem. So that's kind of what drove me into going
Mhm.
into even higher education with the doctorate, because I am tired of school, but you know um I just want to be able to do the work that I want to fully.
That's fantastic. So let me
Mhm.
ask you this. We always stress like work-life balance.
Ah.
So going to school, and then I know you have a
Oh.
time job and then
Yeah.
you do the fee for service work and you still have your household,
Yeah. Yeah. You
um,
know, it's being clear about what your boundaries look like, right? Like, what is my bandwidth? I am married, and we are considered newlyweds, if you will. And so I really try to be flexible with my time. Like, if I'm in between classes, I get 3-week breaks between my quarters, and so we really try to use that time to do as much as we can together to maintain our marriage. And I also open myself, quarterly. I've, accepted that I'm not in a space where I can go to every brunch anymore, right? But I can meet with a new friend each quarter. And, the people who get it and who understand what the doctoral journey looks like, they meet you halfway, because it could be really isolating to not be able to show up for people in the ways that you used to when you had more time. And sometimes it looks like saying no a bit more, and that's hard, because for me personally, recovering people pleaser here, to self disclose. And I needed to figure out a way to put me first so that I can get the most out of my experiences without sacrificing myself, because I am pouring into so many different areas of my life at one time.
yeah, yeah.
That's a great point. And how do you pour back into yourself? How do you fill yourself up? Because I
Yeah.
can relate to what you said around setting boundaries and just being
Mhm.
clear about how you can meet people's expectation of you, because everybody has an expectation of you.
Yes.
And sometimes I'm just not going to be able to meet that
Yeah,
expectation.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but how do you pour into yourself when you juggling all those things, and I think most Black women can relate, because we are the most
Yeah.
accomplished in education
Yes.
professionally, and also the most underpaid, but we ain't gonna get to that.
Ah, I
Okay.
know.
The
I know.
busiest, so we are the busiest, we are in
Yeah,
high demand for everything.
it's
Right.
true.
We can do it all, and they need to pay us to do it all, but that's my disclaimer.
Absolutely.
How do you pour into yourself? How do you keep yourself
I put
whole?
myself at the top of my list. So what that looks like is, before I start the day, before I'm clocking into job number one, I am sacrificing what might be, time that I would have slept in, right? So I start my day at least an hour beforehand, and I do whatever I feel like I have the bandwidth to do. Some days it's a 5-minute meditation. Some days it's hopping on my Peloton bike for 20 minutes, 30 minutes. Other days it's just waking up 30 minutes early to read a book for pleasure. I also have a non-negotiable where I take myself out every month solo, just to make sure that I'm clear with myself, checking in with myself, doing something that doesn't involve giving to anyone else but me. And I started that, I want to say, in December. I realized that I was just showing up for everyone else but myself. And the burnout rate was really high for me at that time. And I was going to crash and burn if I did not figure out a plan to take care of me. And so now I treat it like work. I got to clock in for me first, before I show up in these other areas. And because it started out as a goal for me, but now it's my standard. It's my non-negotiable, because that's what keeps you accountable. Saying it's easy to say yes to everyone else, but if you can't keep the promise to yourself, what are those yeses really for?
That's the
It's
word.
so true. I still have not mastered that. I was supposed to start that this month because what I will do, I will get up the extra hour, hour and a half early, right? And then I'll start checking emails. I'll
Yeah.
start doing things. I'll start taking care of my dogs,
Yeah.
everything for everybody and everything else except for myself. And so this month I said, you know what? I'm taking myself to a Broadway play. There's a play I want to see. I love the movie
Nice.
now.
Oh,
And so now it's on Broadway. Uh,
Yeah.
I'm still looking for a day to get the tickets for because I went online. I'm looking at the tickets. I'm like, oh, I can't do it that day because I got to work. I can't do it that day because I have a meeting. I'm just going to have to say, you know what? Cancel my appointments. I'm taking myself to this play because I really want to see it. And I don't want to
absolutely.
mess around and not see it because I never seem to find time for myself.
You got to make it, like I think about it like the way we think about work, there are some days you don't want to go, but you need to show up because you need a part of this payment to live whatever part of your lifestyle that has been consistently funded by that payment, right? So, we don't get to just say all the time, hey, oh well, I don't want to go to work, so I'm not going to do it, like challenge yourself. You're worth it.
Thank
Mhm.
that. I'm actually
Yeah, that reminds. I mean, you see, I'm over here being quiet because I'm being ready. I'm not gonna tell myself I do a lot of things, and Ayanna doesn't always come at the top of those things. So
Yeah.
I can relate, and I think everybody needs that reminder that it should be a requirement to prioritize yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so that you don't lose yourself in the doing, in your identifiers. I'm a boss, I'm a mom, I'm a this, I'm a that.
Right.
When all of those things are stripped away, you're a person. And how did you pour into you as a person, as a soul, as a being, as just being who you are outside of the things that you do? So I think that that's an important reminder for me, P and I. You reading P and I, but I'm sure
It wasn't my attention, guys.
I'm sure you're reading our viewers as well. Pour into yourself, people.
Pour into yourself first, and then you'll find that you have so much more to give, right? Like, could you imagine if you poured into yourself fully first and then showed up in all those different roles? People would,
God, I might not show up. I might be like, I quit. I don't need to do this no more. When me and Ayanna was together, we decided we don't need to do this anymore. I agree. It's necessary. I always, and
Yeah.
you know what else we do? Because we're all in the same business. We didn't mention it, but we all are TCS family.
Yeah.
So we are all clinicians and we all help other people. We tell this to our clients
Right.
time.
Right.
all the time. I will sit across from a client and be like, well, when are you going to pour into your cup? When are you going to choose yourself first? When are you going to make space for you to be well? Rest should be a requirement for you. And then
Yes.
be up 3-4 o'clock in the morning.
Listen, but that's also the other side of it is like, meeting yourself. Okay, I know I was up to 3-4 o'clock in the morning. I might not have it in me to get up at 8 a.m. to do, this big task, but can I do it at my lunch break? Can I set aside, 15 minutes? I mean, give yourself 1% of the day and it'll make a difference. I think that's less than 10 minutes.
Mm.
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll see. We're gonna revisit.
My math ain't never been good, so you can quote me on
We'll
that.
revisit this conversation. I'm gonna look at my day and I'm gonna see
Yeah.
that 1% in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But
It's easy.
But you see, I learned the hard way. I truly believe if I was not doing this doctoral program and didn't have to prioritize myself at this level while juggling full-time work and all my extra things on the side, like I probably would continue to run myself into the ground until, someone told me to stop, but
so where do you think that comes from? That
it's
run. I mean, we know we can go there. That run yourself into the ground. That you go like, and we
hard.
It's the hustle.
We pride ourselves on the hustle, but really, where does the conditioning come from that we don't give ourselves the permission to not do?
I don't know, sometimes I think, we can, say it's linked to, trauma, intergenerational trauma, right? Thinking about our ancestors, those who, raised us, our grandparents, our mothers, aunts, and, how they weren't actually afforded the opportunity to ever pause and seeing that as the standard and thinking that that's the only way that it's been modeled to you. And so sometimes we get real stuck in the cycle of what's been passed on. And, I think what's exciting about this time in history is that, a lot of Black women, a lot of Black families are starting to hit pause and unpack some of that to understand, like, this is something I inherited, right? Like, this is a generational, curse that just because those before me did it and they seemingly made it work, right? Because again, in certain times, in certain generations, you aren't even accustomed to addressing your feelings, right? Like you just kind of went through it. You were numb to it because society didn't give you that privilege, right? But now people are sitting back and hitting pause and saying, like, I don't want to carry that no more.
Yeah.
And
And
you
that's
don't
why
have
we're
to.
seeing the emergence of soft girl era.
The soft girl era.
Yes, yes, definitely. But you know what? Sometimes there's a guilt that comes with
Oh,
that.
big time. Big
It's,
time.
you know, like you were saying, Deja, you think about your ancestors. Like I think about my grandmother. I think about my uncles. You know, they like my uncle Frank. He owned a hoagie store in Philly, right? And I get my kind of entrepreneurial spirit from him.
Yeah.
You know, I used to go to work with him at like 6, 7 years old. I would sweep the floor in the store,
Wow.
stop for him. I mean, he was like my role model. My grandmother, she worked hard. My
Hmm.
parents, they were both city workers, but you know, as city workers, that overtime. And
Yes.
for that overtime, my parents never turned down overtime. So all I saw was family members working, and that was kind of like instilled in me. This is
Hmm.
what you need to do to get ahead. Mind you, my dad passed away at 40 from a heart attack,
And
all that
oh
work,
man.
and he had just turned 40.
Wow.
So, but sometimes you do feel guilty if you're not working because it's like, well, that's not how I was raised.
Right, right. And that is a real conflict. I see a lot of that in clients that come in, this whole idea of rest, right? Like the guilt behind, okay, but if I got time, I should be doing something with it. Like, what do you mean sit down and rest? That is, like you said, it does bring on that guilt thinking about your ancestors before you and how they had to hustle. And well, if they were able to make the use out of all their time, then I should be too. And then you get stuck in this burnt out web. But does it serve you, right? Because I always say, what was the struggle for if I don't get to rest a little bit now? If I don't get to rest a bit easier than they did, then what was the sacrifice for? If we were just going to be in this grind race forever.
I think for me, it's a little opposite. And I'm gonna throw it out there. I gotta
Yeah.
blame capitalism.
Oh yeah, we're supposed to be little worker
Like,
bees.
right. And the guilt that comes from me is I know that I'm sacrificing other privileges in my life to work hard to live comfortably in a
Yes.
society, to afford
Right.
to live comfortably in this society. I am sacrificing free time, but I feel like I have to. I think we're all in different periods of our life, because I know, Deja, right now you're not a parent, right?
No, no.
And Pia, your child is grown.
Yeah.
Well, my children are 3, and it's like,
Yes.
Pampers are expensive. This box of
Mhm.
Pampers is $60.
Yeah.
So if I don't grind
This
and I don't
economy.
hustle, then I am the CEO of my household.
Mhm.
So when somebody is running a Fortune 5 company, like they have to manage, I am the CEO of my household. It is me, myself, and I. And so
Right.
while I would love the opportunity for rest,
Mhm.
maintaining a quality of life in New York City, and then we
Yeah.
know what it's
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
It's like I can't turn down the hustle.
Right.
Because if I
Right.
turn down the hustle, then something falls to the wayside. So we really have to even examine it on the fact that I would love to rest. I love a good nap and a leisurely book and a stroll in
Mhm.
nature
Mhm.
and baby vacation me, listen, margarita me. Okay. I would love to get a massage in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And then I look at my calendar and it's you booked, you booked, you booked, you booked. And I have 3 jobs and 2 children. And
That's
only to
wow.
afford the life that I live. And so it's like, we talk about the soft life, and I want
Yeah.
life for everybody. But in order
Absolutely.
to afford the soft life, there has
It's a
to,
whole other thing.
in society, like we got to really have a conversation. There are people who cannot not hustle because they won't survive if they don't hustle. And I think that
That's
I
the bigger
feel like I'm
problem.
there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
If I don't hustle, I won't survive.
the whole notion of, pay no more than 30% of your salary for your rent, like that's going out the door. If you live in a place like New
I
York,
know. It's
it's
true.
tri-state area. I'm in Jersey City now, and it's New York prices.
I've heard.
It's
I've
crazy.
heard.
Yeah,
It's
because it's so
ridiculous.
close. I'm 15 minutes from Manhattan, right? And the prices have just skyrocketed. So that 30% is out the window.
And I
Sorry.
also think that, like Ayanna was saying, capitalism, right? Like these prices, this economy continues to increase and we continue to meet the demand of the increase. No one is stopping
Yeah.
the machine from rolling. And so
Exactly.
they take and they add a bit more, and then they take and add a bit more, and then we're in this shuffle where, like you said, you can't even take time off your calendar to
Mhm.
make sure your household and that you're good, like thinking about the future, thinking about the time when you do get to get comfortable, right? Like,
Yeah. So it's like how do we find and navigate the balance? Like, how do we get out this matrix? I feel like I'm stuck in
right.
the
No,
matrix.
no, I do too. I do
I'm
too.
like, how the hell do I get out the matrix? I mean, P and I discussed this offline. Like, we need a commune, we need a community where we
Yeah. And
like how do we fight a system that is designed for us to fail?
that's what I was going to say. The system has specifically been created in this way to keep us several steps back, right? When you think about, your competition, your peers out there who've had things, like leg ups, who have generational
Hundreds of
wealth.
years of legs up. Of legs.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, and to come in and find something, right, that works for you, that you enjoy, that you want to thrive in, but you got to work 3 times as hard to sustain it, is, like you said, it's like being trapped in a matrix.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Let me tell you this. So I was in a space the other day and someone was speaking and they were talking about their career, and it was a white woman. She was talking about her career, and she was saying that a family friend of theirs created a fund, right?
Mm,
And this fund was for an institution, gave money to an institution to start a scholarship fund, right?
wow.
Her family friend, right? Guess who was the first recipient of the scholarship fund?
She was.
She was. Exactly.
Wow.
So your family friend gave the institution money to start a scholarship fund, and you got the scholarship.
Mm,
And that's how it's done. And that's
That's
how they
that's
continue to secure their wealth.
exactly.
And this is what I don't understand, is how come we haven't tapped into this notion of nepotism? Why haven't we benefited from it? We see other cultures band together, they figure it out. We see it across the spectrum, the range, people come in from, Latin America, they're bringing their cousins in on businesses. We see it in certain franchises. They're bringing in their cousins, their uncles how come we as Black people have not tapped into that system?
That's a
See, you know what? I always go back and forth with this because we have
yes.
had concrete examples of Black excellence and Black wealth
Mm-hmm.
And still do. Yeah.
and still do. And then
Always,
we had
always.
a intentional and systematic destruction of Black excellence and Black wealth. And so I think, when we have the conversation about collective economics, Black people have always understood collective economics
Yeah.
and have tried
Right.
in spite of
And the system
and the system.
has smacked it
I
down.
mean, I mean, Tulsa,
Mhm.
we have Tulsa, we have Black
In so many
we have,
places.
there's so many examples of
Mhm.
us creating thriving spaces for ourselves, by ourselves. And then the moment, we feel like we've solidified that space, there is complete and total destruction and it's just like, the narrative is that we're like crabs in the barrel and that
Right, right. And that's so
I don't believe that
disheartening.
that's true.
Mm-mm.
And
I
we
think that's a
stay
myth. Mhm.
it is a myth, but it's a myth that sticks with us, and then
Right.
people perpetuate
Mhm.
that theory that Black folk don't support Black folk, because we hear it all the time. Oh, And I've been guilty of saying this sometimes, like, yo, sometimes Black businesses be trifling, like, you know, you go to Black business and you got to get poor service, poor customer service. But I know that I am a supporter of Black businesses and Black folks,
Absolutely.
and my Black dollar goes into Black pockets, and I uplift Black communities, and I know so many people like me who do the same.
Yeah.
But I feel like we keep trying to play we try to win at an America's game, and America's
Yeah.
game is rigged for us to never win. So I just feel like we
Absolutely.
don't
Of
need to play
course,
in your
look how we were brought here. We were brought,
Right. Right.
you know, for them to be on the losing team, right?
Mm,
Little did they know we had pioneers like Harriet who weren't going for it, right?
right.
And we could do things like practice martial arts and pretend that it was a dance, right, in the form of
Come on.
right?
Yeah. No,
Guerrilla
seriously.
warfare. Come on, guerrilla
Exactly.
warfare.
Seriously.
So we outsmarted them despite everything. And like you said,
Everything.
I think we need to go back to outsmarting them.
Yeah. And keeping it in before it gets
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
We need to know that it's not their game we're playing. We need to play our
right.
own game.
I think that is so true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still believe it's possible. I believe there is going to be a dismantling to this system.
Mhm.
And all empires fall.
Right.
All empires crumble. I mean, history will repeat itself. So I believe that there will be an end to this system as we know it. And then
Yeah.
what comes after it, I don't know. I'm not a fortune teller, but I hope that humanity is at the forefront of whatever system comes after it. Because
too.
I think billionaires are criminal. Like hoarding that much wealth when the world is so
Shambles.
deprived of resource, and we have the 1% that just continues to hoard wealth, where everybody could eat, everybody could have resource, everybody could have wellness, everybody could have home, everybody could have food on the table if the wealth was distributed evenly. And it's just like the rich get rich and there is no middle class anymore. We're just
No.
really
Yeah.
poor,
No.
living from paycheck to paycheck, you know?
Right. Right. Right.
It's like, listen, at some point, people gonna be hungry enough to eat the rich.
And
History will show us.
that's gonna be a different time.
Well, depending on the outcome of this election cycle,
Right.
you
Right.
know,
Might come sooner than we think.
yeah, and we really don't know what the outcome. Well, we know what the outcome of some of the candidates will be for
Right.
people of color, for poor,
Yeah.
even if poor people don't know.
For mental health,
Yeah.
all of that.
Don't know for
Can I
every-
pause, y'all? My children are wilding out in the background. Y'all can't hear what I listen. I mean, there is going to come a time where this system is going to explode on itself, and we're gonna have to do things.
What's going on now is not sustainable, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-mm. It's gonna happen. I wanted to go back to something,
Sure.
Deja, because I mean, we can talk about so many topics, but since you're entering into the diagnostic world in education, and I'm so proud to say that you're changing that 3%, you're going to add a little bit to the 3%. So kudos to you for your endeavors.
Thank you.
I want to just touch on, because I know so many people in my life who have struggled with receiving diagnoses for their children, with even reaching out for support with finding care for their child when they know something is wrong, because the system has misdiagnosed, has it's really been a disenfranchisement of Black and brown folks when it comes to receiving treatment and receiving accurate diagnoses, that a lot of people don't even trust the process.
Yeah.
And as a Black woman who is going to be entering into that world, like, what do you feel needs to be done to help alleviate the stigma, help educate Black and brown folks around the power of correct diagnoses?
Yeah.
And how do you feel like you're going to play into that?
Well, that's a layered question because like most tests, they're not designed for Black and brown people.
Mhm.
So I was hoping to get into this arena so I can make tests that are appropriate for Black and brown people, if I'm
Period.
being frank, because the ones they have are just not inclusive in that way. There are some that they have updated, they have done, or tried to do their due diligence to use sample populations that include more Black and brown people, but the bulk of them don't. And so that's a big issue. And so when you think about that, it's no wonder that there is such a large amount of misdiagnoses out there because of that. So I also think in terms of stigma, labels matter. And I always say it's helpful to get more than one recommendation before you accept. You don't, it's the same way you don't take the first, I
Yeah.
mean, at least
Second and
me.
third opinion. Yeah.
Yeah, shop around a little bit, find someone. And it may be hard because, like I said before, 3% is not a big number.
Yeah.
Most times when you're, meeting with the psychologist, they may not look like me. But, being in a space to advocate, but the question is, how do you advocate in a system that you feel and,
Yeah.
really insecure about or that you don't trust? Testing in general has been a problem for Black and brown people because of the way we were taken advantage in those spaces, right?
Absolutely.
So I think
Good
a lot
point.
of education around the benefits of knowing what that result is in terms of getting the treatment or the care that your kid might need. But also, I think it's okay to be a little apprehensive sometimes. And I know that might sound unorthodox coming from a future, psychologist or psychologist in training, but what we're finding is that people have reason to have doubt.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely. But and the crazy part is around that piece around education on the benefits.
Yeah.
Because make no mistake about it, um, there are others
Okay.
who utilize the system for their benefit.
Oh, yeah.
Who
Yeah.
their IEP plans, if their child has an IEP, sets them up for success, resource, access, additional time on testing, additional space.
Right.
And we're only frowned upon, like it in the Black and brown community. When you say somebody had an IEP, oh, then
It's
it's the derogatory
weaponized. Yeah.
language. You're slow. You in the special ed. And I'm like, no, like there are people walking around who are running corporations who had IEPs and who,
Yeah.
because of their
Yeah.
IEP, benefited greatly from the services and connections that they had with the services that they received. And we're not educated on the system. We're
Right.
not educated on how it can help us. And we always see it as a hindrance. And then we have people that just go misdiagnosed, underdiagnosed, or incorrectly diagnosed because we're not educated. So I think,
Part of the issue, having been a school social worker for a while, part of the issue, it starts in school, right? When you have when you are in schools in urban areas that don't have resources,
Right.
psychologist is only there once a month, right?
Right.
Where the
absolutely,
social workers are overwhelmed. They have one social worker for the whole, the whole
The
school.
house. Yeah.
yeah,
For the whole school.
or
Um,
half of a social worker.
Exactly,
Hmm.
exactly. I have seen, IEPs that were copy and pasted
Yep,
that actually had another
all the
student
time.
on them. And it's like,
Wow.
what is this? How
Hmm.
is the student receiving proper services, right? But the schools don't have the proper resources. They don't have, the proper staff to actually make those correct diagnoses and give the referrals and get them to places. And then even sometimes when you give the referral, right? If you're looking at a family who's living in transitional housing, you're
Right.
getting referrals to go here, there, and here. Who's paying to get there?
Exactly. And it becomes a
No car fare.
barrier.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No car fare to get to where they need to go. So it is very layered, and there's
Layered.
so many factors that are involved.
You bring up such good points. And I think, a part of the process has to be also understanding that not every family, it fits the mold. There is no cookie cutter, right? Like you said, there can be variance and nuance, and you may have to, accommodate in different ways. But I feel like our society has this, one size fits all, approach. And that's where a lot of times we fail in expecting people to be able to make it. Okay, you waited 6 7 months to get an eval with the psychologist, and the psychologist won't be on site. You got to meet the psychologist here in this neighborhood. And how are you getting there? You're a single parent and you have a household that you have to manage. You got work, you got, it's so, like you said, so layered.
It is. Yeah. And not everybody has the privilege,
Right.
access to care.
Exactly.
That helps them and meets their
And
needs.
forget it if you have Medicaid, right? Because
Right.
nobody takes Medicaid. Nobody takes Medicaid.
Yeah.
Medicaid doesn't do reimbursement.
Yeah.
So
Right.
they usually get stuck going to clinics, and clinics
And we already know.
kind of like mills, in and out.
Mhm.
One day you'll see one person, 2 days later, they
You
have
may see a whole nother. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. The
And
turnover is
not
high.
even a person, you're just a number and
And so you start to build up this greater mistrust for the system.
Yeah.
And no, I don't want my kid talking to anyone. And then the what happens here stays here, and then your kid is not able to vocalize that they're having these struggles, and then they may come and see someone like me in their adult life and say, I think I have ADHD. I've never been diagnosed.
Yeah.
Like I've been reading up about it. We get it all the
We
time.
see it all the
See,
time.
I wasn't diagnosed till I was 37.
Right.
At the age of 37. And to this day, right, I had a psychiatrist. I had a psychiatrist for years and years and years. He unfortunately passed away.
Oh.
Do you know how hard it is for me to get my medication now? Because a psychiatrist will look at me and say, well, you don't need that. I'll give you Ritalin. I take Ritalin.
And you've been taking this medication
consistently, and they won't reconcile you.
They won't tell you.
They won't tell me what I need to take, or think that I'm dope fiending them. And I'm like, you can look in the system. I know that it's a universal system. You can see all the medications I've had throughout the years that haven't worked, and what I've been on that does work. But you want me to take some old school medication like Ritalin? I can be out of my mind. Like, who takes Ritalin these days?
Right.
And so, being a person of color, you do have, those doctors who don't want to give you the proper service or medication. They want
It's still a major problem.
Still a problem.
Huge problem.
And that's why, when you get to the top of the mountain, you get another, you got another valley to climb, and people they stay in the flat line.
Yeah.
And they find a way to exist there until they don't.
Exactly. And this is coming from a person who has private insurance and knows how to advocate for themselves, right?
And it's still a challenge.
It's still a challenge.
To have that privilege, and the knowledge that you have as a social worker, right? Where the average person doesn't have it. And so,
yeah, these doctors change.
I know, it took my breath away too.
I had a doctor try to change my chemotherapy regimen.
What?
Exactly. I'm like, are you crazy? Are you trying to kill me?
Wow.
Because they said that because I was with them now, they had to buy the medication out of pocket and be reimbursed by the insurance company. And they didn't feel safe purchasing the medication because it's so expensive. So why don't I just switch to this? It's the same thing. And I'm like, no, it's not the same thing. I got
it was the same thing. I would be taking this.
Exactly.
I got away from that doctor very quickly.
I'm glad you did.
But if I didn't have the knowledge, and this is where knowledge is power, right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of us don't know. And I felt so bad looking at their other patients because all their patients were black and brown. And I have been to some of the best specialists. And so I know what the regimen looks like. I know how you're supposed to check the band, have a second person have eyes on the medication that's coming, right? How to clean a person's port properly, how to, all of that. I don't
Yeah.
see any of this going on. So I
Mm.
was like, I'm not getting treatment here. I'm not
Mm-mm.
doing it.
Wow.
But they don't know any better because they haven't had the best treatment.
Yeah, and
It's
they're
heartbreaking.
used to what
This,
they're getting, and
it is.
what we're getting, a lot of times is not
That's why
sufficient.
we don't survive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We don't.
Again, the system is designed that way.
it
Yeah.
is.
The system is designed that they were testing on us, cutting on us, killing us, lying to us.
Mhm.
So medical distrust is it's ingrained in the medical systems
It is.
because of how we were introduced
Yeah.
to Western medicine. They don't even consider holistic approach to healing. They don't even
Right.
consider spiritual approaches in healing. It's all put a pill, put a patch, put a shot, and
It's that one
we are
size fit all, and
exactly, and
it
it
just
don't work.
doesn't apply. It does not apply.
It doesn't work, and
Mm.
so for me, in the advocacy work I do with clients, is I tell them, you are an expert on your body. You might not know
Yes.
everything that's
Yeah.
wrong, but you know what isn't right. You
Right.
know your body. Learn to listen to that voice. Learn to have some trust and autonomy in that knowing when you're sitting across from a medical provider, because what a medical provider has that you don't have is years of schooling and a license to use the years of schooling that they have. Outside of that, your body is yours. And
Yeah,
if something
it's
ain't right and they telling you something and it still don't feel right, trust that. Lean into that.
yeah, lean into that intuition, that discernment, thinking about different times, like across the culture. That trait saved a lot of people. And I feel
Absolutely.
like we've gotten very far away from, listening to that gut intuition,
Yeah.
and we walk into these offices and we listen to what, physicians say, and we take it as law and like, okay, well, my doctor says so, it has to be. And
Yeah.
I tell my clients all the time, multiple things can exist at the same time. Multiple truths can
Exactly.
exist at the same time. They can be right and they can be wrong.
Mhm.
Yep.
We
Yeah.
all, like,
True. It's true.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, this was a good conversation. We don't went
no, we
damn
we
back
did. I'm gonna have to come back and hang with y'all.
and you are always welcome into this space. And I just want to give you your flowers. Kudos to
Oh,
you
thank
for
you.
what you are doing and for where your passion lies in the work that you do. And I know it's not easy getting an advanced degree, showing up for yourself while getting an advanced degree, while being somebody's wife, while being somebody's mom, not, well, you're not a mom yet, while being somebody's daughter,
Yeah.
family
Yeah.
member, and doing all of these things and doing so wonderfully and brilliantly as you are. So kudos to you, Deja.
Well, thank you. I received that. Thank you.
All that you do. And
The only goal is to be better than I was yesterday. I try and, one day at a time, really. But
that's a good goal.
mhm.
Yes. So Ayanna, tell the people where they can find you.
Oh, they can find me, of course, on the TCS website if you want to book with me. But personally, you can find me on my Instagram at Harriet Returned, ED at the end, like she came back. And you can find me on my website at www.harrietreturned.com. And Pia, where can they find the TCS family? If they want to find Deja, you taking clients?
I'm taking.
Okay. There we go. If you want to work with any one of us, where can they
Yes.
find us?
They can find us on the website, transformcounselingservices.com, or they can visit our Instagram page at Transformation Counseling SBCS.
That's right.
Deja, do you have any platforms you want to share with the people?
Just the ones you shared. I'm also listed on a few other platforms like Therapy for Black Girls and Psychology Today, where it may say that I'm not accepting clients, but I do have a small window.
Okay. All right,
So listen, connect with us. If you want to work with
Yeah.
Deja, you listen, follow us, connect with us, follow our YouTube page, leave a comment. We are so happy to connect with you, Deja, and you will be back. Okay.
Yes,
Do a part
yes.
two.
I'm
Uh,
down.
that's it. All right, y'all. So thank y'all for coming to What Makes Us Human podcast. And until next time, be good to yourself and be good to others.
All right.
Thank you.